Well, Master Chief, I've got the 3 best and worst ones for you. Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. After playing every weapon in the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, I thought to myself, what weapon would be the best weapon for beginners? And then, what would be the worst? I had a good sit down and think about this one, and I came up with what I thought were the easiest and most satisfying weapons to use, along with which weapons were the most technical, and unfortunately, the most unengaging weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds. Now I know there's no point in me saying this since people will inevitably disagree with my takes, but just saying this loud and clear, this is my opinion, and what I think overall would be the best weapon for newcomers to the franchise. So with that out of the way, let's start with a positive. The Gunlance is pretty self-explanatory. It's a lance with a built-in gun. An overall amazing weapon to use, and also a very simple one. Wilds is a new game in the Monster Hunter franchise. They continue to innovate and upgrade the weapons as the years go on, and the Gunlance was treated very well in this game. For starters, it was given an amazing string of attacks that can be performed by more or less mashing 2 buttons at the same time. Now, some would argue this might be boring, but I'd say it's quite the opposite. With how impactful the feels hit, and its accompanying great damage, this simple string of attacks never gets old, and I will enjoy mashing these buttons till the day I die. But the love for the Gunlance doesn't stop there. You see, in Monster Hunter Wilds, they added something called a power clash, in where after blocking perfectly, or after blocking many attacks, I still don't really know how this works, you and the monster will engage in a clash along the lines of something like Metal Gear Rising. This is an amazing mechanic that hits all the right dopamine receptors, and I can't get enough of it. Moving over to a weapon I wouldn't really recommend for new players, we unfortunately have the Charge Blade. Now this weapon has lots going for it, but that might even be an understatement. All the charge file mechanics, including the new overcharging they added, needing to charge the sword, the shield, and axe, and how to even do that, along with all the guard points that feels almost necessary to play the Charge Blade. There's just lots going on, and I'd be a liar if I said the reward wasn't fulfilling. Learning the Charge Blade is extremely satisfying, and arguably one of the most satisfying, but there's just so much to this one weapon that I don't think someone new wants to boot up a game and then go straight to YouTube to figure out what the hell is going on. And it's sort of why I have put the Charge Blade here in the would not recommend category. Moving back to the positives, this one is probably going to be the easiest weapon, being the hammer. Now to all my hammer mains out there, y'all are great, don't get me wrong, but we need to agree that it does not take a lot of brain power to just bonk the big monster in front of you. The hammer is extremely satisfying with its ability to cause many KOs and its effectiveness at breaking parts. It's an amazing choice for newcomers. I couldn't recommend it enough. Back down to the negatives, I'm going to need to put the longsword here for multiple reasons. One is the overall skill level needed to use this weapon. Now some would argue it's extremely easy, and to us who have played the game before, it is really easy. But for people that have no idea of monster attack patterns and behaviors, having to rely on counters as a newcomer could be very daunting and maybe even unenjoyable. But I can't overlook how cool the longsword looks in action. Any weebs out there are going to love this one. But even going out of mechanics, unfortunately the longsword has a bad reputation. Longsword users, just letting you know that even though your damage is great, people do not like you. The longsword is always knocking us around more than most weapons, and the cockiness that comes with wielding a large katana isn't enjoyable when you're trying to counter a monster's Nova and you end up dying. Just run away, please. The longsword is probably one of the most enticing weapons in Monster Hunter, but it's unfortunately not one I am going to recommend to new players. Before I get to what I think is the best and the worst weapon for newcomers, I want to quickly give an honorable mention to the bow, a weapon that can be used effectively with low skill, but I'd recommend spending some time learning more about it before picking it up as your main weapon. But now let's get to the final weapons of the video, starting with the weapon I would recommend the most being the one and only
Wide open!
Now, I 100% know some of you will disagree with this take, and I understand why. But in Wilds, I would say this is the go-to for anyone new, mainly because I think it shows off why Monster Hunter is so cool in the first place. For starters, did you know that when making Wilds, they started with the Greatsword and then built the rest of the weapons around it? So it sort of shows that they put a lot of care and attention into this weapon. And in Wilds, it really shows. When I was talking about the Gunlance, I brought up the new mechanic known as a Power Clash. And this epic moment is also available on the Greatsword, and is arguably the coolest clash. But not only that, it has another new mechanic given to some weapons known as an offset attack, in which your hunter will swing some weapons upwards, offsetting the monster and sending them tumbling backwards, allowing you to hit them with a finishing blow of sorts.
Oh my god, this is hype! Oh my god!
And these things alone make me confident that most, if not all people looking to get into Monster Hunter will enjoy the Greatsword. But this doesn't come without some kind of learning curve. But I also think that's a good thing. If your weapon is too easy to use, you'll most likely never learn and just keep hitting a monster without any satisfaction of coming out of a hunt a better hunter. Overall, the Greatsword in general is extremely satisfying in every aspect, and I would confidently say if you are new to Monster Hunter and want to pick up a weapon, then my first choice to you would be the Greatsword. But now, we get to the saddest part of the video. Why is it sad? Well, because the weapon I would say is the worst for newcomers in Monster Hunter Wilds is one of my favorite, and it's one of my most used weapons in Monster Hunter World. And it's kind of weird to say because Lance is 100% in the top 3 easiest weapons to use in the game. It's so simple and easy to pick up, so why is it the weapon I recommend the least to people? Well, it's just that. How can Capcom and the Monster Hunter team innovate on the Lance in interesting ways? You kind of can't. The Lance in Monster Hunter Wilds was extremely boring, and I felt like it got nothing new and impactful at all, with its biggest upgrade being the Power Clash. But that's not unique to it, other weapons get it, so why pick the Lance over anything else? It's unfortunate, so the lack of difficulty the Lance has isn't what's putting it on this list. It's the lack of satisfaction, and how if I was forced to use the Lance in Wilds, there's a good chance I wouldn't want to keep playing, and is why it's my pick for the worst weapon for newcomers in Monster Hunter Wilds. I do want to add that the Monster Hunter team said they are changing the Lance and other weapons, so maybe it will get some changes in the full game that hopefully make it a lot more fun and enjoyable. Before you click off this video, I would just like to recommend this video to the left. It's one I'm very proud of and I'd love for you to see it. Or you could pick the one on the right that YouTube thinks you will like. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I guess I will let you go. See ya.